you very much, first of all. Thank you for inviting me to be here to share with you some of my work. Um, I gave a TEDx talk in Hong Kong a few weeks ago. I start with my personal story about not being able to speak when I was small. I had some problem in speaking, so my verbal ability is poor, actually. And that's why I'm a dance movement therapist. I like body language. I like nonverbal communications. This is also one of the focus of my talk today. And I know there are dance movement therapists here, like Tao, Sabrina, Victor, Helen, or some of you also familiar with dance movement therapy. So you are familiar with some of my language in our field. But today I also need to take care of others who are not so familiar with the language, because I need to use that in my case presentation. All right, so I will start a little bit and set the ground of my case presentation. So first of all, we talked about a little bit more about the body and also the movement. And why dance movement? And then I will talk a little bit about the clinical and research evidence. I published a couple of papers about the outcomes of some of my research studies. So, but my case study or some of the clinical evidence, I seldom talked about this, and I never published that. So I think I better use this chance to share with you the clinical perspective, from the clinical perspective. Okay. So the body, first of all, I think we all know about the importance of our body, but it is very important to be more aware. We know about ourselves, starting from our body. We touch ourselves when we were a baby, right? Through all the kinesthetic, sensory stimulation, through touching ourselves. So we know about who we are. We know about our body. We know about the self. And then also through touching, also through kinesthetic sensation, we know about others. We know about, okay, this body is not mine. I have different feelings. I have different sensations. So we know about the others. And then we know about the world. Okay, so that is all through the body. Okay, that's easy. Right, the body doesn't lie. I think everybody here agree with that, right? I'm not sure whether you really believe that, but you agree with that. Although how much we want to pretend in some circumstances to hide some of the feelings inside, but the body can tell, okay? In particular, if there's a conflict, the body can really present it. And of course, I was trained as a movement analyst. I can see it. All right. And another important thing related to the topic of the conference is that about the traumatic experience. I think you all know about this, okay? So this is a renowned psychologist talking about how traumatic experiences will leave trace of, you know, I can say the experience or record in our muscles or in our body. So in his term, he used the harmony. So it is something like a robot, okay? So that is something like it's about blockage, okay? It's about the energy cannot flow freely in your body. I think the echo with the presentation 2 days ago about the hyperbaric oxygen therapy is talking about, okay, if we have traumatic experience in childhood that may create damage in the brain and cause necrotic tissues There's a damaged tissue, dead tissue, that stops the blood flow. So I think they align with that evidence. So in many cases, when we work with children or adults with traumatic experience, one of the important goals is to help them to free the blockage, okay? Either cognitive or physical. So for us, of course, we believe that the body and the mind are always connected. Either you can change your body or you can change your mind, all right? So this is a reciprocal connection. And in particular, from the perspective of dance movement therapy, we have the saying that the more graceful a person's movement, the more healthy the person is. So what does it mean by graceful? It is not about beautiful. It's not about dancing, okay, on stage, that kind of beauty. But this is about natural, congruent, authentic movement, that your mind and the body really present the same thing. So it's natural, okay? It's not like a robot, okay? So I think this also aligns with the recent research and studies in neuroscience or interpersonal neurobiology. In particular, Sagol talked about, give a new meaning in health is about an optimal functioning of the organ that enables the organism or person to live in a flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable flow across the time. In particular, he emphasized on the coherent brain. That means the information can flow in your brain freely. So I think here, many of you are artists. You do drama, you do music, or you do visual art, you do dance. And when we are engaged in the artistic activity, actually know that not only dance, but I think also music or other form, different parts of our brain are stimulated, okay? So that helped what Sagol said about the information flow inside the brain. So the more part the brain was stimulated, you know, the energy flow, the blood flow, the information flow can become more smooth. So this is the definition of dance movement therapy. So this is a process that can integrate different things of a person. So including physical, psychological, emotional, social, and spiritual. So, but then, what is movement here? Okay. So Sabrina talked about KMP. Yesterday, talked about the rhythm. This is very important. But today, I will use another perspective. That is LMA. This is another system of movement analysis to look at movement. So basically, we all know that movement is the physical expression, right? The action. It's a posture, can be a posture or gesture. But it can be much, much more. So this is different from Sabrina's KMP system. The whole Laban system, LMA, look at different things of a person. So including the body, effort, space, and shape. I will not go into details of each of them. It takes 2 years to finish. I only use 2 minutes today. Okay, but today I will focus more on the effort and space. That is the ground and the core element that I will use in my clinical case. Okay, the effort and space, remember that. So a brief introduction of effort. We have what we call the 4 elements, 4 factors in effort, including space, time, and weight flow. A simple action, for example, something like that, okay? That's an action, right? So we can see different elements. Quick, right? Strong, yes? Has a direction, has a direct space. And also, maybe a little free. If you think about Bruce Lee's, you know, what is that action called? Punch, okay? Punch, maybe. So that's a little bit concept about the movement. So if I do an opposite movement, something like that, right? So first of all, it is different from this. It has multiple focus or no focus at all. So this is indirect and light, not like this, right? Light and slow, okay? Maybe a little bit bound flow. So this is the basic concept in element. So in every element, we have all those factors. So I will use these factors in my clinical treatment. So another important thing that I will talk about is space, okay, space. So when I come here and I come in, I select the chair to sit in, and then usually I have a practice to clear about a little bit of space. Of course, this is about individual needs. So some of you may need a little bit more space. Some of you maybe can be a little bit closer to another person. So it has a lot of factors to affect that. But today I will focus more on the personal space. That is when you are in the center, that is the space around you, okay? So personal space is not only about physical space, it's also about psychological space because it sets your boundary, okay? Personal space, boundary, psychologically. So first case I will talk about is a boy. So he is 10 years old when he is referred to me. So the presenting problem is trichotillomania. So this is hair pulling behavior. So all those cases I will present may not be directly related to sexual abuse, but the emotion I will work with actually appears in almost all the sexual abuse cases or traumatic cases. So interestingly, this is the situation, very worse, okay, very worse. So interestingly, this boy is a good boy, and he behaved very well in front of the parents. But there's one thing, this is contradictory to that. He has a domestic helper. In Hong Kong, we almost most of our family have domestic helpers. Told me that he hit the cat at home, And then I talked more to his mother. And then I know that his parent is going to separate, okay, to divorce. And then they did not tell the boy, but I think the boy knows something about this, okay? The boy knows something about this because he talked to me when he was alone with me, all right? So that's what I get, the information. So imagine if a boy behaved very well, but he hit the cat, right? That's something happened in a boy. This is something that I may need to work with. First of all, maybe anger. Okay, so hitting the cat is an expression of anger, or transform or projection or whatever. And then other thing I need to work with is impulse control. Because pulling the hair is involuntary action. So there's a lot of pain when you pull your hair out. But he could not stop it. He could not stop doing that. So it may be related to impulse control. So that's my entry point. So how to work with anger with children? Of course, we facilitate expression. Facilitate the boy to express it, to ventilate it. And in that way, I create a specific movement game. So I use the action that the boy hit the cat, and I try to modulate the effort element inside that. So imagine when you hit the cat, you are doing that strong movement, right, at the beginning. Strong and quick movement. At least two elements you can see. Strong and quick, all right, or indirect. And then I think of the opposite of this element is what? Light and slow, right? Or more direct. So I create a game, the movement game, and challenge him. So he's a boy, he likes challenges. And then we practice many times. So I said, okay, we start with the strong and fast and direct, indirect movement, and then change it to the light, slow, and direct movement at the end. So this is like that. Okay? It's not easy. So this is a challenge. And the boy liked to play with me, in dancing, in stepping, in jumping, and movement. So we practiced many times, many, many times. And then I said to the boy, okay, when you want to hit a cat, try to do that the same. That worked. Really worked. And the other day, the domestic helper told me, okay, yeah, it seems. At least I could not hear the cat shout like this. So he stopped hitting the cat. Okay? So this is one of the elements I work with, the boy. So for impulse control, I use rhythm. So I like to use rhythm in my section. So in particular, I like to use steady beat. So this is not rhythm like what we hear in the song or the music with different variation, right? This is steady beat, just like a metronome. So steady beat actually gives a good structure. So it has structure. So it gives a good structure that the boy sometimes he could not move as what he wished to, but he need to wait to a certain time to follow the rhythm. Okay, steady, 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 steady. We can do quick or you can slow, but has to be steady. So he has to be patient. So of course I make it as a game, a movement game with rhythm. And he follow, we play together. And that helped him to regain some of the control. Okay, he can wait a little bit, and then gradually, he applied it on his pulling hair behavior. So about a few weeks later, the hair pulling behavior stopped. So can you see the hair come out? Okay, the hair come out. I think maybe you can see, maybe you cannot. the little graph. So this is how in the clinical section, I use movement element. So as one of the core treatment approach. Okay. So in each of the case, I will present one core treatment component, so which is very dominant. So another case I want to share with you is a 9-year-old girl with selective mutism who were 5th grade, but he stopped talking since kindergarten. So there's about 7 years. She never talked in school and with teacher. So that caused a lot of delay in learning, in particular the abstract concept. So she could not differentiate abstract concept like high or low in my language, or she could not tell what follows 7. Okay, what follows 7? Because when I give a sequence, okay, 6, 7, 8, or I give 6 and 8, what is in the middle? She could not tell. So all these concepts, she could not get it, even she was in 5th grade, because she never asked, she never talked in school. Okay, but she liked dancing. So my observation in the first section is that she could whisper. She could talk, actually, talk with her own family, okay? And she could make paralanguage, because in the playroom, we have toys like an ice cream cone, this toy. And then she picked it up, and then making sounds like that, okay? So that made me believe she had a very healthy and functional vocal cord and its speaking system. So the things that why she could not talk in some circumstances, that may happen to me too, as I mentioned. I seldom talk when I was small. That is nervous, first of all. And second, is the tension of the muscle here in the throat area. When you have tension here, you cannot talk, So I thought about relaxing the muscle here. So the best way to relax the muscle here is to laugh, right? You cannot do that without relaxing your muscle. So I play with the girl. This is the first time we met. Whatever I asked her, she used the finger to point. Okay, I asked her, do you know your right knee or left knee? She could not differentiate, okay, left or right. This is abstract concept, but she used finger. So we play a lot of games so that I think she could laugh. At the beginning, she laughed like that. Even she's really, really happy, excited. But later on, we built up a relationship, and she liked to play with me, and then she became more relaxed. Ha, 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 and then, ha, 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 something like that. So about 3 sections, this very dramatic change. She started to talk to me in a very slow, light voice. Okay? So this is really, really a dramatic change for this girl because she never talked to a person outside the house. All right? So this is almost the last section. We worked together for about 8 weeks, okay, 2 months. And then she talked more than me in the section. She asked a lot of questions. She's curious about everything. And then at home, she talked to her classmate through phone. Okay, so this is one of the core issues I work with the girl. Let's go quickly. Okay, another case, this is especially for Thai, because we talked about withdrawing youth yesterday. For this case, I only changed one thing, very easy, seems, okay, seems. The core thing I changed for this young man who always hide at home, playing computer game, never come out, never work, not study. And this is the posture he presented at the beginning. The only thing that I work with him in the first section, first of all, I mirror his posture. And then I use my ballet teacher skills. Okay, so when I teach ballet, okay, the kids need to lengthen your spine. I put the hands on top of the head. Okay, lengthen, something like that, all right? Something like that, okay? So ask him to lengthen his spine and shake his back. So this is the resulting posture. And then I give him the practice, the homework. Okay, practice this posture at home, even in your room. Because one of his big problems is lack of confidence. That's why, at the beginning, his body is always like this. So by only changing the posture, I change something inside, I think, something inside. I did not do research for this case, but I see the clinical changes, and he become more evident. So about 2 months again, this man started to work in his father's factory. And he also joined a study group to learn the Mandarin language, another language. Okay, so this is the core things I changed. All right, I don't have time to talk about the earthquake kit, but I wrote a big book chapter on that. I want to share a little bit, use a few minutes, about the sexual abuse survivor. Okay, so this is a poem. I will give the presentation to you, okay? But this is the images that one of the childhood sexual abuse survivors drew before the intervention. So it's almost aligned with the poem that I find later. So no face, no tear, no show, no body. Okay, it's something like that. It's very sad. So I published this paper actually, but I briefly talked about the core framework I used in this group. Okay, I skip this, okay? So I use space and place as a framework, okay? First of all, because, you know, many of the childhood sexual abuse case, they have attachment problem, right? So Helen talked about this, right? And it is important for us to be aware of that. First of all, the lack of sense of security we need to work with. Second, their boundary, the body boundary. They will go either too extreme, either they have a rigid boundary, they cannot make friends with any other, and they cannot make any intimate relationship with anybody, or they have no boundary. They make relationship with everybody. So there's always two extremes. So there's two core issues I work with childhood sexual abuse survivor. So one of my key things is use place. Place means, for me here, means grounding. That's the place, that's the location. So that's the grounding. I think dance therapy know what I'm talking about. So I create a lot of sensation and feeling and attachment to this specific space using rhythm, using weight, so that they can create a sense of security, that have something to anchor, okay, something to anchor, that's a security. And then I work with space, in particular the kinesis. So when you have something to anchor, and then you can reach out. So this is a very symbolic perception of thought or attitude for them. So, but if we only ask them to reach out without the anchor, it's dangerous. It's taking a lot of risk. So that's how I work with them, okay? Very quickly. Okay, so you can see that in my paper, actually. But I always want to show, this is the drawing after the intervention with the same client who have the mask, right? So you can see after the intervention, she drew about some lines. For me, this is like you comb your hair, right? So she is calming his emotion. Okay, calming is aware of her emotion. And then at the end, 3 months later, she also drew about different emotions. She become more aware and identify the emotion inside her. So another client, this is 3 pictures, 3 images. First of all, this is before the intervention. That is she. She hide behind the tree, looking at outside. That's beautiful, but she is hiding. She didn't want to come out. She does not want to come out. And after the intervention, again, she become more aware of different emotions. Can be happy, can be sad, can be angry, frustration. And 3 months after, she also drew another picture. She become more positive. All right, so I also have some qualitative feedback, but if you want to read them, so you can go to my paper. It was published in the ASEAN Psychotherapy. This is the thing I want to share. So motion and emotion is always linked together. Okay, thank you very much.